We are at the greenhouses for Lincoln Parks and Rec Public Gardens section where we overwinter a lot of our annuals that we use throughout the year. Right now we are looking at some of these red bananas, which when we take in the winter can be a very laborious process. As you can see, some of these are close to 100 pounds or so. When we bring them in, after that first frost, they start out about 15 to 20 feet tall. We'll cut them off and bring them in. With a lot of the red bananas, we will divide them and overwinter a little cooler. As you can see, there's some upshoots coming from here. When we divide these, we'll quarter them up and plant them in our mix. That way, when they're ready to go next spring, we start growing them out in January, February. We'll bump up the heat in the greenhouse to get these things growing so that they'll get to that 15 to 20 feet in the next year. When it's time to get them outside is when we get all of our regular annuals in flats delivered, because they will fill this greenhouse to the brim. So we actually have a shade structure outside that will keep these in the late spring before we put them in the garden. So we do harden them off for about 2 to 3 weeks. That just ensures that once we put them in the garden after the frost-free date, that they'll be ready to go. They do not bear bananas, as they require, I believe it's 3 years of growth before they start to bear fruit, and we just don't keep it warm enough to do that.
So along with the bulbs, we have aquatic plants that we overhold in this greenhouse. We have a variety of aquatics that we bring in come fall before the freeze. Anything from illustrious elephant ears to black elephant ears, rush, water hyacinths, and King Tut Papyrus. The King Tut Papyrus is actually probably one of the more interesting things. It's this plant here. It's kind of a corner piece of every pond each year. As far as divisions go, this is just one division. This year, pull these out in the fall, it'll be a massive plant that takes 3 of us to get out, along with shovels. We actually have to physically get in the ponds and try to not disturb the liner and dig it out at the same time. This is the water hyacinth here. We keep these kind of contained in the corner. They do spread quite a bit, so each year we'll only keep about 10 or 12 sprigs. The tropical lilies, we have 2 different types of lilies in the gardens. We have tropical lilies and hardy lilies. The tropical lilies we actually take out each year, so we try to have about 4 in each pond, different varieties. The bloom type on them is way different than anything you see with the hardy native lilies, so they're a huge attraction to the gardens. With the tropical lilies, we keep them in the greenhouse at about a 50-degree temperature, where the hardy lilies, they can just go back to the ground in the pond. So this greenhouse allows us to overwinter all these plants for the sunken garden, so they'll be ready for next year.